It's 9:35 now here, AM 1150, 101.7 FM, and WDEL.com. Some good news on the business front this morning. First-time unemployment claims down by more than 50,000. Figures from the Labor Department this morning showing initial job claims fell to 364,000 last week. And, man, these are much smaller numbers than we've been talking about over the past several months. I'm talking to Chris Burkhardt, Placer Staffing in Newark. And I guess, Chris, first of all, what are your impressions on the new numbers?
Well, first of all, good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Thursday. I'm not surprised. I think unemployment is going to continue to fluctuate up and down. Workers gain some confidences. They come off the sidelines. They start to look for work, which means they apply for unemployment. And then, there's a good bit of jobs. So I think we can expect unemployment to go from 5.8 and hopefully trend down to a more manageable number of 4.5% by the end of the year. I think we're going to get a good jobs report tomorrow. During normal times, 700,000 jobs would be a lot, but as we've been talking over the weeks and months, there's just still a lot of people on the sidelines.
Do you feel that at least a chunk of some of the return to jobs you're talking about will be as the federal unemployment benefits, the extension of those, they start to fall away state by state?
I think will have a real impact.
Yeah.
There's also some states that are using those monies for federal sign-on bonuses for folks that get jobs. So it is shifting the emphasis. But one interesting thing I found, Pete, is, obviously there's many jobs. A gap between what employers want and need and what employees view as their priorities. Folks have a little financial cushion. They're not in a hurry. This pandemic stress and exhaustion is kind of a real thing. I think we'd all acknowledge that, and folks might be enjoying their summer. And some of this, the new COVID, the new strains might be a fear factor for some, especially for those that are caregivers to those that are at risk. So I just think there are continued complexities to this, and it's not just any one thing that's kept numbers relatively high.
And the other part of this equation, Chris, the number of employees that have quit a job, I guess, is close to a record at something like 2.7%.
Pete, have I mentioned there are plenty of jobs available out there?
Maybe once or twice.
Yeah, I think so. This has been coined sort of the great resignation moment. I kind of like the sound of it. But workers have had this, accelerated life experience with the pandemic. What do they like? What changes do they want to make for themselves?
Yeah.
And while some employees are definitely leaving for raises and more money, and who can blame them, many are looking for more than that paycheck. Folks want to grow, and I hear they want a career path. So it's much more about aligning folks' interests to the long term versus just getting a job. And that's causing folks to take advantage of the supply and demand situation and move around.
Yeah, so for people listening, these are the kind of things they need to kind of consider if they're thinking about taking that leap into what they see as a user-friendly job market.
It is a very good job market, and I think I would caution folks for just leaving for more money. I think you have to like work, the people you work with, what the company stands for, but I also understand that this is an opportunity for people to get ahead, Pete.
As folks are driving, as we speak, Chris, I'm sure they're seeing them because I'm seeing them. I know you're seeing them on any city block, now hiring signs out and about. And it seems like good times for workers, a challenge, as we've talked about, for employers. What job search advice would you give someone really looking to make that change?
Well, Pete, this is the first time I've given this advice on your show, but I think it's now a unique opportunity for folks to try and time the number of opportunities that they have going on. I think we want folks to try and create 3 jobs that they might like to consider.
Yeah.
These are good, yet the key is timing. We hear all the time that someone got an offer last week, but they're going on an interview today. You can really upset employers if you don't manage. But the key is try and create a couple of choices for yourself, but try and do it at a time where you have them all to consider in a reasonable time. there's nothing more frustrating to employers than, not hearing back in a timely fashion.
Right. What about the winning strategies from that employer perspective?
Well, we've been advising to think about things like, how do you show someone what their career path might be? What would that path be for the workforce? Talk about learning and development programs and opportunities. Share stories of how staff have evolved and maybe been promoted from within. All organizations are considering raising some wages, sign-on bonuses, or other perks. And, one unique thing we are seeing is letting applicants shadow a role or even see the job virtually to make sure it might be what they expect, to see if it's something that they might want to consider. But the heavy hit, plan for turnover, and, you're going to have to probably make an increase in your investment in both recruitment and retention resources and plans. It's simply, you have to fill roles, but almost all of us are going to have a few open roles as people move around and better their careers.
Right. A lot of retooling going on, born of the pandemic, Chris, but the kind of retooling that sounds like it'll make good business sense down the road when we're fully emerged from it as well. It's showing employees, for instance, as an employer that they're appreciated for hard work and things along these lines, giving them flexibility they haven't had in the past. It probably makes for a happier worker, maybe a longer-term worker. And that's a plus, certainly.
There is a sense that as people move into new roles, that their productivity and what they produce for that business and the economy increases. So I think change is hard, but change is Pete.
Sounds great. Chris Burkhardt joining us. Placer Staffing in Newark. As always, I much appreciate your input, Chris.